brought to you by Q2UA's Africa's Cultural Engagement Team. This presentation is on Kenya, my home country, and the first section will be history, travel, trade partners, and diplomatic relations.
Kenya, the history. The original people of Kenya were hunter-gatherers. Evidence of the first funeral, first long-distance trade networks, first use of pigments, and the makings of projectile points, the oldest stone tools ever found in the world, and the remains of the earliest human being were all found in Kenya. Between the 14th and 15th centuries, the Swahili coastal towns flourished on the Indian Ocean trade routes. Between 1498 and 1510, the Portuguese arrived and began to establish a foothold in the Kenyan coastal towns. In 1698, the Arabs captured Mombasa and other coastal towns from the Portuguese. In 1822, the Sultan of Oman sent an army and claimed control of the region. Between 1840 and 1890, the British and the Germans began exploring the interior of Kenya. At this time, the slave trade was at its height in the Kenyan interior. Between 1885 and 1886, the Congress of Berlin divided East Africa between Britain and Germany. In 1895, Kenya was declared a British protectorate. In 1896, between 1896 and 1901, the Uganda Railway from Mombasa to Lake Victoria was built. The British conquered Kenya. In 1944, the Kenya African Union was formed. In 1947, Jomo Kenyatta became president of the KAU. Between 1952 and 1953, the Mayu began an uprising against the white settlers. Kenyatta was arrested, tried, and imprisoned. Between 1953 and 1955, all political parties were banned. On December 12, 1963, Kenya gained its independence, and Kenyatta became the first prime minister. In 1964, the Republic of Kenya was formed. Kenyatta became the first president. In 1978, Kenyatta died, and Daniel Arap Moi became the second president. In 1992, the first national multi-party elections were held since Kenya's independence. In 1998, Al-Qaeda operatives bombed the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi. In 2002, another Al-Qaeda attack killed 10 Kenyans and injured 3 Israelis. In 2007, violence erupted in protest of the presidential election. In 2010, Kenya helped form the East African Common Market. A new constitution was approved, limiting the president's power. In 2011, Somali jihadists raided Kenyan coastal resorts and refugee camps. Kenya sent troops into Somalia in response. In 2012, oil was discovered. Between 2012 and 2020, unrest and conflict with the Somalis continued. In 2022, William Ruto became the president of Kenya. Over the years, Kenya has developed allies, trade partners, and diplomatic relations. Here's a list of the different countries that Kenya has these partnerships and relationships with. If you choose to travel to Kenya and beyond, here is a list of different cities in America and Canada that you can fly from. All prices are one-way flights, and all prices are in US dollars. Once you're in Kenya, you may choose to travel to other countries on the continent of Africa. Again, all of these flights are one way from Kenya, and the prices are in US dollars.
Visas, citizenship, and currency.
Entry, exit, and visa requirements. All visitors are required to obtain an electronic travel authorization before entering Kenya. Requirements for entry: passport with at least 2 blank pages, 6 months validity, and a Kenyan electronic travel authorization. A new working/volunteering permit program was introduced in December of 2018 that requires foreigners to apply for permits and visas from their country of origin. Submit work permits applications at least 6 to 8 weeks prior to travel. Once in Kenya, submit a renewal application 90 days prior to expiration of your work permit. Make sure your health insurance plan provides coverage overseas. Most hospitals and doctors do not accept U.S. health insurance. Expect to pay and get reimbursed. Medicare, Medicaid does not apply overseas. It is strongly recommended that you have supplemental insurance to cover medical evacuation. Make sure you are up to date on all vaccinations recommended by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Travelers with dual nationality. Dual nationality, also known as dual citizenship, is permitted in Kenya. While there may be advantages to holding dual nationality, such as access to government programs, but it is very important to understand the legal considerations that can make life and international travel complicated. One of the complications could be the local authorities may not recognize your U.S. nationality if you have Kenyan nationality also. This will limit U.S. assistance from the U.S. consulate, especially if you did not enter Kenya using the U.S. passport. Other complications include the following: being required to use your Kenyan passport for entry and exit of the country, exit bans, military service, registering your other nationality, and prohibition of dual nationality. Please note, you may knowingly or unknowingly be a national of another country, even if you do not accept the nationality or hold a passport for that country. There are 3 ways to acquire dual nationality. The first is being born in the U.S. to 1 or 2 U.S. citizen parents, with your second nationality based on the other country's nationality law. The second is being born outside of the U.S. to 1 or 2 U.S. citizen parents, with your second nationality based on the foreign country's nationality law. And lastly, naturalizing as a U.S. citizen while maintaining the nationality of another country. This can be done as a U.S. citizen. Contact the Kenyan Embassy in Washington, D.C., or the consulate in New York City or Los Angeles for information on the correct form to use and where to obtain it. Currency, Kenyan shilling. The shilling in Swahili is pronounced shilingi. Abbreviation is KSH, and the ISO code is KES, is the currency of Kenya. It is divided into 100 cents. Prices in the Kenyan shilling are written in the form of X/Y, where X is the amount of shillings and Y is the amount of cents. The KSH is the most stable currency in East Africa. Currency history. September 14, 1966, the Kenyan shilling replaced the East African shilling at par, although the latter was demonetized until 1969. The Central Bank of Kenya issued notes in denominations of 5, 10, 20, and 100 shillings. All of the notes featured a portrait of Kenya's first Prime Minister and President, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, on the front and diverse economic activities in Kenya on the back. 5 shilling banknotes were replaced by coins in 1985, with the same happening to the 10 and 20 shillings in 1994 and 1998 respectively. May 31st, 2019, a new family of banknotes were issued without the portraits of known Kenyan individuals. All banknotes for this series share a common design of the Kenyatta International Convention Center on the front of the banknotes, and the back of the banknotes showcase the richness of the people and nature of Kenya. Between 1967 and 1978, the portrait of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, the first president of Kenya, appeared on the front of all of the independent Kenyan coins. In 1980, the portrait of Daniel Arap Moya replaced Kenyatta until 2005, when the central bank introduced a new coin series that restored Kenyatta's portrait on the coins. Section 2314 of the 2010 Constitution of Kenya stated, notes and coins issued by the Central Bank of Kenya may bear images that depict or symbolize Kenya or an aspect of Kenya, but may not bear a portrait of an individual. December 11, 2018, a new series of coins was issued in keeping with the new law. Denominations of the new coins were 1 shilling, 5 shilling, 10 shilling, and 20 shilling. These coins depict the national coat of arms of Kenya on the front and images of recognizable animals on the back. This new series of coins is designed to be more recognizable for people with impaired vision.
Demographics, religion, and government.
Ethnic groups and languages. The ethnic population of Kenya is divided among 3 language groups: the Bantu, Nilo-Saharan, and Afro-Asiatic, the Bantu being the largest. After the Bantu, Nilo-Saharan is the next largest language group. In addition to the African population, Kenya is home to groups who immigrated there during the British colonial rule. Although a wide variety of languages are spoken in Kenya, The multi-purpose language is Swahili. It is the language of local trade as well as the official language in the Kenyan legislative body and courts, along with English. In the early 21st century, the rate of natural increase was above the world average. 2/3 of Kenyans were under the age of 30, while 39% of the population is under the age of 15. In the early 21st century, life expectancy in Kenya was below the world average. The Kenyan government is a republic that consists of 3 branches: the executive branch headed by the president, a bicameral legislative branch, and the judiciary branch. Kenya currently has a multi-party political system, a parliamentary democracy. The formation of the National Assembly and the Senate is determined by Article 95 and Article 98 of the Kenyan Constitution and registered voters. Members of Parliament and members of the Senate each serve 5-year terms. Kenya has consistently held a general election without fail since obtaining independence in 1963. The current president is Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya. The Mau Mau Rebellion. Volumes have been written on the intensity and determination of the people, especially the Kikuyu people, to remove the British presence from their land. Religion. Freedom of religion is guaranteed by the Kenyan Constitution. Although 4/5 of the people are Christian, Protestant, or Roman Catholic affiliated, there are minority religious formations in Kenya. The most significant of them are the Muslims, both Sunni and Shi'is.
Education and healthcare.
Education system. Education is seen as a key driver of economic development and social mobility in Kenya. It plays a crucial role in reducing poverty and promoting sustainable development. The Kenyan government continues to prioritize education and invest in improving the education system to meet the needs of a rapidly changing world. The Kenyan education system is divided into 3 levels: primary, secondary, and tertiary. In 2003, the Kenyan government introduced free primary education, making it accessible to all children. The education system follows the 8-4-4 structure, which means 8 years of primary education, 4 years of secondary education, and 4 years of university or college. At the end of primary and secondary education, students sit for the national examinations, namely the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, KCPE, and the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education, KCSE. Kenya emphasizes vocational training to equip students with the practical skills of for employment. Technical and vocational education and training, TVET, institutions offer courses in various fields. Kenya has several universities and colleges offering undergraduate and postgraduate programs. The University of Nairobi is the oldest and most prestigious university in the country. The Kenyan government has implemented various education reforms to improve the quality of education, including curriculum changes and teachers training programs. Despite progress, the education system in Kenya faces challenges such as inadequate infrastructure, limited resources, and disparities in access to education between urban and rural areas. The public healthcare system. The public healthcare system in Kenya is administered by the Minister of Health and is funded by the government. It includes public hospitals, health centers, and dispensaries that provide medical services to the general population. Public health care services are usually more affordable, but can be limited in terms of resources and quality of care. Private health care facilities in Kenya are typically run by private practitioners, hospitals, and clinics. These facilities often offer a wide range of services and have better equipped facilities compared to the public healthcare institutions. However, private healthcare services can be more expensive and may not be accessible to everyone. In Kenya, healthcare insurance is available to individuals and families throughout various providers. The National Healthcare Insurance Fund, NHIF, is a government-run healthcare insurance scheme that covers a portion of medical expenses for its members. Additionally, there are several private health insurance companies that offer coverage for both individuals and groups. Kenya has a network of healthcare facilities, including hospitals, clinics, and dispensaries located across the country. However, there can be disparities in healthcare infrastructure between urban and rural areas. Major cities like Nairobi, Mombasa have more advanced medical facilities, while rural areas may have limited access to healthcare services. The healthcare system in Kenya faces several challenges, including inadequate funding, shortage of healthcare professionals, and limited access to healthcare in remote areas. There is also a need for improvement in healthcare infrastructure and the quality of service provided.
Trade and economy. Trade. In 2021, Kenya was the 62nd economy in the world in terms of GDP, 109th in total exports, 81st in total imports, 162nd economy in terms of GDP per capita, and the 83rd most complex economy according to the Economic Complexity Index. Imports and exports. Imports. The top imports of Kenya are refined petroleum, palm oil, packaged medicaments, cars, and hot rolled iron, importing mostly from China, India, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Malaysia. Exports. The top exports of Kenya are tea, cut flowers, coffee, refined petroleum, and titanium ore, exporting mostly to Uganda, Netherlands, the United States, Pakistan, and the United Kingdom. Economy. The economy of Kenya is market-based with a few state enterprises. Kenya has an emerging market and is an averagely industrialized nation ahead of its East African peers. Currently, a lower middle-income nation, it plans to be a newly industrialized nation by 2030. Their major industries include agriculture, forestry, fishing, mining, manufacturing, energy, tourism, and financial services. As of 2020, Kenya had the third largest economy sub-Saharan Africa, behind Nigeria and South Africa. Summary of the cost of living in Kenya compared to Dallas, Texas. Consumer prices in Nairobi are 68.9% lower than in Dallas without rent. Consumer prices including rent in Nairobi are 74.6% lower than in Dallas, Texas. Rent prices in Nairobi are 84.1% lower than in Dallas, Texas. Restaurant prices in Nairobi are 73% lower than in Dallas, Texas. Grocery prices in Nairobi are 67% lower than in Dallas, Texas. Local purchasing power in Nairobi is 73.5% lower than in Dallas, Texas. Agriculture. Agriculture is the second largest contributor to Kenya's GDP after the service sector, although only 15% of Kenya's total land area has sufficient fertility and rainfall to be farmed, and only 7 or 8% can be classified as first-class land. In 2006, almost 75% of working Kenyans made their living on the land, compared with 80% in 1980. Forestry and fishing. Resource degradation has reduced output from forestry. In 2004, roundwood removals came to 22,162,000 cubic meters. Fisheries are of local importance around Lake Victoria and have potential at Lake Turkana. Mining and minerals. Kenya has no significant mineral endowment. The mining and quarrying sector makes a negligible contribution to the economy, accounting for less than 1% of the GDP. Kenya has recently discovered coltan deposits. The rare mineral is used to manufacture electric car batteries, mobile phones, and other electronic devices. Industry and manufacturing. Although Kenya is the most industrially developed country in East Africa, manufacturing still accounts for only 14% of the GDP. This represents only a slight increase since independence. Energy. The largest segment of Kenya's electricity supply comes from hydroelectric stations at dams along the upper Tana River, as well as the Torwell Gorge Dam in the west, a petroleum-fired plant on the coast, geothermal facilities at Olkaria, and electricity imported from Uganda make up the balance. Tourism. Kenya's dependence on tourism has greatly reduced over the years. In 2019, foreign tourist revenue stood at $1.76 billion, accounting for only 1% of Kenya's GDP and approximately 12% of all international tourism recipients in Eastern Africa. Financial services. Kenya is East Africa's hub for financial services. The Nairobi Stock Exchange, NSC, is ranked 4th in Africa in terms of market capitalization. Roads, ports, entry and exit.
Kenya's roads have historically been vulnerable to heavy rains. In 2018, just when motorists thought hazardous potholes were a thing of the past, torrential rains and the ensuing floods swept away sections of Kenya's roads, a terse reminder of the limits of planning. How did reforms transform Kenya's roads? Well, in 2018 of September, Nairobi printed that in 2005, Kenya's government was prepared to rebuild the country's dilapidated roads after decades of neglect. At that time, there was limited data on the size of the country's road network. The World Bank stepped in to support the extensive road rehabilitation project, investing $1 billion in International Development Association (IDA) financing over 13 years. Today, 162,000 kilometers of Kenya's roads are documented, and the country is currently working on recording and updating the condition of the existing network. Listed below is a screenshot of all the roads that the years that they were designated for construction and the years that they should have been completed or were completed. The KRB, who are they? This representation provides the road users with an opportunity to effectively participate in the management of roads in Kenya while ensuring that utilization of the funds entrusted to the KRB is efficiently and effectively carried out as per expectations of the stakeholders. This map portal is an interactive map that you can actually go on and see what is going on with each of the roads. It is a fairly sophisticated system they have here. The KRB oversee and coordinate road maintenance, rehabilitation, and development through optimal utilization of resources for a sustainable road network. The KRB formation was a significant step towards reforming the road sector in Kenya. KRB's members include both individual and corporate, come from both the public and private sectors of the economy. It has 8 members from the private sector, representing a large number of road user constituents, and 5 members from the public sector. Some quick facts. Your passport is valid for 6 months. You need to have 2 blank pages. There's no visa requirement upon entry, but you need to pay a $30 USD 72 hours before entry. You need to be vaccinated for yellow fever. There's no currency restrictions upon entry, but a maximum of 100,000 Kenyan shillings upon leaving the country. The U.S. Embassy in Kenya, as of December 22nd, 2021, Kenya's Ministry of Health announced all passengers aged 18 and over arriving in Kenya will need to present a valid certificate of COVID-19 vaccination effective immediately. All passengers exiting Kenya will also need to present a valid certificate of COVID-19 vaccination, as well as meet the existing requirements under the Trusted Traveler Initiative. COVID-19 vaccines approved by the World Health Organization are considered valid by public health officials in Kenya. There are 9 major ports and terminals in Kenya. The graphic to the right shows that most of them are located in the southern portion of the country. Kenya's Ports Authority. Kenya Ports Authority is a wholly owned state corporation established through an act of parliament in January of 1978. The KPA is mandated to manage and operate all scheduled seaports and inland waterways along Kenya's coastline. This includes Mombasa, Lamu, Kisumu, Malindi, Kilifi, Mtwapa, Kinunga, Shimoni, Funzi, and Vanga. KPA also manages the inland container depots in Nairobi, Eldoret, and Naivasha.
Agriculture.
Agriculture. The sector not only contributed 22.4% to the Kenyan GDP in 2021, one of the highest shares in Africa. What is organic farming in Kenya? Organic farming includes crop rotation and mulches to control pests and soil fertility. Agriculture. The problem of soil erosion in Kenya is attributed to the arid and semi-arid climate. About 83% of the landmass, poor management of land, and intensified agricultural activities. Sustainable agriculture practices that are reshaping farming in Kenya. With climate change and resource scarcity threatening agricultural productivity, sustainable has become imperative for the future of farming in Kenya. Sustainable farming practices are gaining traction across the country. Improving clean water, sanitation, and nutrition in Kenya. Inadequate nutrition in children under age 5 stunts their growth and development. Diarrheal diseases are the third leading cause of death in children under the age of 5. Access to household water, sanitation, and hygiene services affects nutritional status. However, only 62% of Kenyans have access to improved drinking water. Even fewer, 26%, have access to improved sanitation. We focus on market-driven approaches to increase access to water and sanitation services while protecting watersheds and water resources. Major crops in Kenya. The major crops in Kenya are maize, Kenya tea, and coffee. Horticulture is also widely practiced in Kenya, which focuses on vegetables, flowers, and fruits.
Interesting facts.
Interesting facts about Kenya. Kenya is described as the cradle of humanity and birthplace of humankind. Named after Mount Kenya, the country's highest peak. The meaning of the name is unclear, but may derive from the Kikuyu, Emu, and Kambo words Koryanga, Koryanya, and Kenya, all which means God's resting place. The Kenyan flag. The flag is made up of a horizontal shapes of black, red, and green, separated by thinner white stripes. In the center is a shield and 2 cross spears. Black represents the indigenous population, red the struggle for freedom, green the land, and white unity and peace. The shield and spears are carried by the Maasai people and reflect the traditional ways of life in Kenya. The national symbol for Kenya is the lion. Kenya's capital. The name of the capital city is Nairobi. Stems from the Maasai phrase meaning cool waters and refers to a cold water stream that flows through the area during the 19th century. Nairobi has been nicknamed Nairobi by expats living there due to its poor safety levels. Just outside the city of Nairobi is Nairobi National Park, home to a plentiful wildlife that can be viewed against the backdrop of city skyscrapers and planes coming into land. It's one of the world's only national parks bordering a capital city and also home to the world's densest concentration of black rhinos. 7 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Kenya has 7 UNESCO meaning United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, World Heritage Sites. In Africa, only South Africa has 10, Ethiopia 9, Morocco 9, and Tunisia 8 have more. The best long-distance runners are from Kenya. Kenya produces some of the world's best runners. Kenyan athletes have won over 100 medals, mostly from track and field events. The most famous Kenyan runner is Eliud Kipchoge. He has collected more gold medals and records than any other marathon runner in history. In 2019, he became the only person in history to record the race's 26.2 miles in under 2 hours. Polygamy is legal in Kenya. Polygamy is legal in Kenya, which means men can take more wives without consulting existing spouses. Each wife, though, may have her own home within the same compound, sharing household duties and childcare. There is a village in Kenya where men are banned, meaning no men are allowed. Only women are allowed to live in Umoja, a village founded in 1990 by 15 women who were raped by British soldiers. Coffee or tea? Coffee is a huge export in Kenya. Kenyans mostly drink tea over coffee. Coffee grows well in the country because of the acidic soil in central Kenya, along with the perfect amount of sunlight and rainfall. Coffee from Kenya is similar to Colombian mild, making Kenyan coffee one of the most sought-out coffees in the world. Kenya's staple meal is ugali. It's a staple meal in Kenya, with most meals centered around the thick dough-like mass made from maize and or cassava flour. Kenya is home to the Maasai. The Maasai are a group of indigenous people who live in the National Reserve, Maasai Mara. They are known for their jumping dance and warrior skills. The Maasai have an estimated population of 500,000 people. This group of people is semi-nomadic, although they are reasonably dependent on the market economy. The pop culture or music and fashion in Kenya. The music of Kenya is very diverse, with multiple types of folk music based on a variety of over 50 regional languages. Ten things you should never do in Kenya, especially tourists. Do not ask people their tribes. Ask everybody if they run. Wear skimpy clothes. Cross streets while on the phone. Turn down hospitality. Greet people jambo. Buy items from endangered species. Carry valuables or dress flashy. And take people's photos without their consent. Touring Kenya. When is the best time to visit Kenya? The best time to visit Kenya is in January. Is it safe for an American to travel to Kenya? It is advised to exercise a high degree of caution due to the threat of terrorism and violent crimes. Higher levels apply in some areas. Safety and security. Terrorism in Kenya. Terrorists are very likely to try to carry out attacks in Kenya. There's kidnapping. There's protecting your belongings. There's scams, drink and food spiking. There's attacks and sexual assault. There's personal ID and dress code. Do you need vaccines to travel to Kenya? The CDC and WHO recommend the following vaccinations for Kenya: hepatitis A, B, typhoid, cholera, yellow fever, rabies, meningitis, polio, measles, mumps, and rubella, Tdap, chickenpox, shingles, pneumonia, and influenza. How many hours is it from Kenya to the United States? The average flight time is around 15 hours. And here's a list of the best places to visit in Kenya. Top of the list is Nairobi. The top safari destinations in Kenya: the Masai Mara National Park, Amboseli National Park, Samburu Reserve, and Laikipia. There is etiquette in Kenya. Handshaking is customary not for prolonged when you already share a personal relationship. Avoid hugging women. To show respect to an elder or a person with higher status, using your left hand and clasp your right wrist when shaking hands and give a short nod. Shaking of hands is accompanied by words of greetings, the most common being jambu, meaning how are you? The response is sai jambu, for am well. Common practice is to carry on a casual conversation after the greetings that include questions about family and work. Avoiding this part of greeting process is considered rude and evasive.
Here are a list of sources and recommended videos. Thank you from Question Africa's Cultural Engagement Team, the land, the people, the culture.